Yes, my sign has started randomly working once again. Praise the Lord. We move on to the real news though. Leon Edwards versus Colby Covington is being targeted for UFC 291, which is set to take place on July the 22nd in London, which is massive news for UK MMA fans. We move on to another bit of news. Two big matchups in the featherweight division of the UFC. At UFC 289, Dan Ige versus Nate Landwehr will be taking place. That's a massive matchup. And also Josh Emmett versus Ilia Topuria will be headlining an event on the 17th of June, a fight night main event. Amazing news there. That's now official. Let's get into it. Leon Edwards versus Colby Covington in July in London on a pay-per-view. They're doing two pay-per-views back-to-back in the UK. This is massive for UK MMA, by the way, and also must show how well that last pay-per-view of UFC 286 did in the UK. I mean, think about it. They just had UFC 286. We ain't even had UFC 287 yet, and they're already announcing that they're coming back to the UK with a massive pay-per-view card of UFC 291. So, Edwards versus Covington it is, I guess. I'm sure they gave Leon Edwards a real talking to and said, listen, Leon, we like you as a champ, but we could very easily get rid of you as a champ and have Covington fight someone else for the belt. So, you better say yes. You have no power here. And I said this. I said that because Leon Edwards tried to play hardball with the UFC, they would make sure the Covington fight happened. And this is per Sports Illustrated as well. So this is a pretty good source for this fight taking place. Amazing matchup. Not the fight that everyone wanted. People are going to complain about it, about him not deserving it. But I bet you this. If Masvidal beat Burns, despite Masvidal not deserving a title shot more than Colby Covington, if that scenario does happen and he does beat Gilbert Burns, people would have no problem with Masvidal getting the title shot. So I say, you know what? Let's just get this fight done and keep Leon Edwards active, because if he fights in July, he can fight again before the end of the year and we can restore some order in the welterweight division. I like the matchup. It's going to be a great build-up. Big time matchup. Will sell pay-per-views. And that's what Leon needs right now. If he can get rid of Covington, he can be a big name champ. He already is. But if he gets past Covington, after Covington builds up the fight and sells it amazingly, Edwards can be a star in his own right. I don't know what they used to try and lure Leon Edwards to take this Covington fight so quickly and agree to it all of a sudden. Maybe they said, hey, we might not go back to London this year. We might be doing it for a fight night on July the 22nd, because now there's two pay-per-views in July, by the way. But hey, we can make it a pay-per-view and you can be the main event as long as you fight Colby Covington next. I'm telling you, he's leveraging his court case over Masvidal to get this type of privilege from the UFC. Craziness that they're doing him this level of a favor. So I definitely think there's some kind of deal going on behind the scenes. But we got Leon Edwards versus Colby Covington to talk about. I think Leon Edwards wins. I really do. I think his momentum right now is crazy. We're going to see an active Leon in his prime, improving every single fight. He just had 2 training camps back-to-back for a dominant wrestler. And now he's got another one here as well. So that's going to be a seamless transition. I know Covington grapples a little bit differently, but I will be siding with Leon Edwards here, winning the first 3 rounds and then maybe losing the last 2. But this is massive. So the UFC's coming back to the UK. I'm telling you, there are so many UK fighters on the roster right now that are at top level. Them coming back to the UK so often, it's a snowball effect. We have more UK talent. The UFC comes to the UK more often. We get more UK talent over and over again. It's just a constant repeating cycle. So UK is going to become a bit of a powerhouse if they constantly do these events at UK time in the UK. Sold out crowd. And yeah, I think I can know what the card was going to be already. A decent pay-per-view card is what I'm thinking. Leon Edwards versus Colby Covington in the main event. Maybe another title fight. Who knows? Maybe Zhang Wei Li or who else? Nunes wants to go to the UK. I'm not too sure. If they don't, we can still make do with a card of maybe Leon Edwards versus Colby Covington main event. Tom Aspinall versus a Tai Tuivasa co-main event. I could see that being the case. If not Tuivasa, maybe Topuria. Maybe then it wouldn't be the co-main event. Paddy Pimblett probably going to be looking to come back around that time against maybe a Dan Hooker in the lightweight division. That would make some level of sense. Dan Hooker's fought in the UK before against Arnold Allen. UK fans are aware of him. Big fan of him as well. That'd be pretty good. Paddy Pimblett, Dan Hooker on the main card as well. Lerone Murphy versus Nathaniel Wood. And just so many other UK fighters that we have could litter that card with amazing talent. I'm thinking like a Davy Grant versus Javid Basharat. Both of them are English fighters. A Paul Craig versus a Ryan Spann to open up the main card. There's so many fights to make. Molly McCann will probably be on this card as well, as annoying as she is. She is a decently big name in the UK MMA scene. And Darren Till will be watching from the crowd crying about his ACL. So not the best news for Darren Till seeing all this go down. But I'm really looking forward to this. Really looking forward to it, man. UK MMA is booming right now, and it's because of this. Thank God Leon Edwards won that belt, because they're going to be doing a lot more UK events. I could even see them doing a fight night at the end of the year as well. There's so much UK talent right now, so we'll see. And for UK regional fighters, like, I don't know, George Hardwick and some other guys that are on the regional scene, Lewis McGrillen as well, he just got a big win at PFL. This is big incentive, because you know they're going to need some UK fighters on that card, and if they get a big win coming up soon in April or March, Lewis McGrillen just got a big KO at PFL on a one-fight deal, so he's now a free agent again. George Hardwick's fighting in a couple of weeks as well. Cage Warriors champ, 2 title defenses, looking really good. If they get past their tests, they'll probably be on this card as well. So big news for UK fighters, UK fans. And Leon Edwards, I think he should have asked to be on the John Jones card, though. I love that they're coming to the UK for another pay-per-view. It's going to be huge, but Leon Edwards should have played this differently, man. I bet you they just bumped him up a whole bunch of show money and said, take the Covington fight, we'll do it in London. Maybe give you pay-per-view shares of it. Who knows? If I was Leon Edwards' management, I would say, hey, I want on that Jones-Miocic card versus Covington, and I want to share the pay-per-view as well. That would really rake in the money for him, but this is what we're getting. No Covington at a press conference with John Jones and all that sort. So, oh well, we move on to another bit of news that came out today, which is Dan Ige versus Nate Landwehr. Massive news. This one's tough. I could see Ige KOing Nate Landwehr badly, I'll be honest with you. But there are some Dan Ige performances where he doesn't impress me too much whatsoever. Like in his last fight with Damon Jackson, he didn't look that good. And I know Damon Jackson is a grappler, and that's obviously what was in the forefront of Dan Ige's mind in that fight. But you know I'm rooting for Nate to train. And I'm so glad as a 34-year-old, Jeremiah Wells, you can learn from this. I know he signed a fight recently, but still. As a 34-year-old that Nate Landwehr is, he's like, I ain't got time to be sitting around. I got a couple years. So he's right back in there June 10th. For another training camp, which I really appreciate. He just beat Austin Lingo. He's looking to get right back in there. He called out Dan Ige in one of his call-outs after the fight, and now he's got it. I just hope Nate Landwehr wins. It's on the UFC 289 card, which is looking so weak, it's a joke. So weak, it's a joke. So, this might end up being on the main card, if not at least headlining the prelims of that card. So, great spotlight for him. Really looking forward to it. I just, for some reason, I can see Dan Ige getting a KO here. I can see Dan Ige winning pretty impressively, or just being able to scrap with Nate Landwehr as the fight goes on, because although I respect Nate Landwehr, fact is, Onama's not really anything special in the division, as we learned, doesn't have the best gas tank either, and Austin Lingo is absolute bottom feeder level. I know he was on a win streak of a 2-fight win streak, but the people he got them over, he arguably could have lost those fights. So I like Nate to train. I'll be massively rooting for him. He'll be an underdog, rightfully so. I'll probably end up picking Dan Ige in that matchup. I think it's just a difference in striking skill on the feet. And if Austin Lingo can land big shots on his chin, I think Dan Ige can land them, and then more of them, and eventually maybe lead to a knockdown or a KO. And I think he's got better cardio and composure than all of them, because he's been 5 rounds before. So, yeah, I think Dan Ige is going to get this one done. Tough matchup, though. So, we'll see how it goes. Obviously, I'm rooting for Nate to train, because if he gets on that mic on a pay-per-view main card and does his thing on the microphone, I'm telling you, that's a superstar overnight, 100%. So I really hope he wins this one, and we can start putting him against some of the big names in the featherweight division. That would be massively ideal. We move on to another matchup. Josh Emmett versus Ilia Topuria. A lot of people are just saying Topuria is going to make it to the belt, dude. Topuria is going to win. Man, Josh Emmett's got a lethal chance in this matchup, man. Josh Emmett has got a lethal chance. He's looking to get right back in there. The 17th of June, Fight Night main event. I imagine this is going to be in the Apex. I just can't imagine the UFC doing this with a massive crowded arena. I don't know about you guys. I just don't see Josh Emmett, Ilia Topuria as like a big crowd main event. I know they're going to have some crowd in the Apex soon, so I assume this is going to be in the Apex with like a decently okay undercard as well. Yeah, I don't know. I'll go Ilia Topuria, but I'm worried that Josh Emmett could win. Now, I do think that Josh Emmett has more one-punch power than Topuria, but I think Topuria's shots are a lot cleaner, and he's very quick to the punch. He's quick to the target with his punches. So I could see him and Emmett trading back and forth. Both guys getting into a hurt moment. Both guys getting hurt. And Topuria pulling it out the bag with some big shots. Beating Josh Emmett to the punch and putting him away in a crazy one-round firefight back and forth. If Jeremy Stephens can do it, I know Josh Emmett has improved a bit since then, but if Jeremy Stephens can do it, I think Ilia Topuria can do it. Even if Jeremy Stephens could do it back then against a worse Josh Emmett, I still think Ilia Topuria can do it now. He's on the surge. He's a young fighter. He's going to be making massive improvements. 26 years of age. He just had a big fight moment as well against Bryce Mitchell in a massive pay-per-view on the main card. Delivered on that front as well. Had trouble against Jai Herbert. Came back and won. Showed his composure. Showed his chin against a tall, rangy lightweight. I think this is right up his alley. But man, Emmett might be a live underdog there. If they disrespect him in the odds, put a bit of money on him because it's going to be worth it. This is going to be an absolute firefight in the featherweight division. And I like this more than the Ortega fight. Do I think that Topuria would also beat Ortega? I'd probably pick him to win that one as well. Although, again, it is quite dangerous. I think this is more dangerous in terms of how Topuria might lose. Ortega could latch up a submission. He could catch Topuria, but I actually think Topuria has more of a chance over him right now than Emmett. Emmett's just a dangerous matchup for him. Another ball of muscle that's going to be swinging KO blows back his way. It's dangerous for both, but I'm glad Topuria's not getting number 3 in the division right away. He's number 9. He's taken on number 5. It just leads to more of a build-up for him. I don't want him to fight Ortega and then all of a sudden, title shot time? No. We want to build these contenders a bit and get them ready for a Volkanovski. You know what I mean? And I think that's what this does. Big fight moment, main event, potential 5-rounder. Hopefully it does go 5 rounds and we see a bit more of his game. I think this is very highly a chance that this is going to finish in the first round, though. Beats Josh Emmett, then he can start looking at the Brian Ortega fight. You know what I mean? Then he can start looking at maybe if Holloway beats Allen, we do Holloway versus Topuria for a title shot. If he gets past those fighters in the first place, of course, because that's a very big ask, to be honest with you. So this is good for the division. Movement for Ilia Topuria up the rankings, and also movement for Nate Landwehr up the rankings as well. But yeah, very big news when it comes to Leon Edwards versus Colby Covington. Gonna be a great card, I hope. Pay-per-view in the UK. Man, UK MMA, I'm telling you, man. I hope they start coming back to the UK way more. They're going to do this pay-per-view, UFC 291, 286. They did the pay-per-view there as well. I'm really looking forward to it, man. Hopefully they do a fight night at the end of the year, start going to different parts of the UK. That would be ideal. Massive, massive news. I'm just not sure where it's going to be in London, because apparently the O2 is booked out on the July 22nd spot, but we'll see if the UFC can use their powers to try and move that date. Apparently there's another concert or something going on in the arena at that time, so I just can't wait for Covington to build up this fight. Can't wait for it. You know what I mean? Look at this guy here. Like, why not at least wait? Imagine Masvidal goes out there and Sparks burns. Masvidal versus Leon in London outsells Colby twofold. People are complaining, yeah, but at the same time justifying Masvidal. This is my problem with these people. It really is annoying me, man, because fair enough. Complain about Colby Covington getting a title shot. Offer Bilal Muhammad as the other opponent. You know what I mean? Offer someone else. If Burns beats Masvidal, he deserves it. They're mentioning Masvidal as the counter-argument. And that's where they lose me with their argument, these people. That's the annoying part about it. They're talking about credentials this and credentials that. Covington doesn't deserve it. But then after that, they're saying Masvidal should get it. And then I'm like, well, then Covington should. If Masvidal beats Burns, 100% Covington should get the title shot over him. He beat him in his very last fight and dominated him as well. No way, no two ways around that. So, I like the argument that Covington doesn't deserve it and should have to earn it. I get that. But come on, Masvidal ain't the alternative. Where they're like, well, Masvidal should get it instead. No. If Burns wins, make the argument he should get it. 100%. If Bilal Muhammad wins, make the argument he should get it. Or Bilal Muhammad right now, without winning, deserves it more than Colby Covington. Make that argument. Stop bringing up Masvidal as the alternative. That's where they lose me on that. Skinny Bets here says, I knew Leon wasn't going to stand strong. Well, he got the fight in London, as a reply says to him there. I don't know. It's hard to stand strong against the UFC when you're under contract. You know what I mean? So, although a lot of people are going to say, I thought Edwards was going to stick to his guns and stick it to the man, the UFC will get what they want and say, okay, if you ain't fighting Covington, have fun getting contract improvements. You play ball or you don't play. I think that's what the UFC does in that scenario. And I think Leon Edwards would have had a much better chance if he didn't turn down Covington initially verbally. Because one, that gives Covington ammunition in the trash talk to say that Edwards didn't want to fight him. But two, the UFC, if Edwards just said, sure, I'll take the Covington fight, and then Burns won or Masvidal won, then the UFC might change their mind. But I told you this before. Because Leon Edwards said, I'm not fighting Covington, and if they send me a contract, I won't sign it, the UFC is then going to be like, oh, really? We'll see about that, Leon Edwards. Here's the contract to fight Covington. Like, they'll double down to make sure they get it, seeing as Leon Edwards said that he's not going to do it and doesn't want to do it. So, yeah. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Toodle Pip. I'll see you later. I'm not turning this sign off ever again because it might never turn back on. See you later. Goodbye.